It started with a dream and a jar. Not a literal mason jar, though I kept one of those too, tucked behind my old poetry books on the shelf. I'm talking about the kind of jar you build over years, brick by invisible brick, hope by quiet hope. The kind of jar that holds more than money. It holds moments. Birthday tips from waiting tables, after-school tutoring gigs, late-night side hustles. Every extra dollar I made from the time I was 19 went toward one thing: my wedding. Hi, I'm Jessa Monroe, and all I ever wanted was a beach wedding surrounded by people I loved, waves crashing, bare feet in sand, vows under the open sky. Simple, honest, sacred. I didn't grow up with much. My parents weren't rich. Love wasn't loud in our house. It was measured, tight, and sometimes conditional. But I always believed I could build something soft for myself. A life where love would mean more than survival. And I believed my sister would be part of that dream. Haley Monroe, my older sister by 2 years, was my best friend. Or so I thought. She was everything I wasn't. Outgoing, magnetic, sharp-tongued in a way people found charming. We fought like sisters do, but I trusted her. She knew my wedding dream. She used to tease me, saying, "Jessa, you've had your Pinterest board since high school." When I told her about the savings goal, $30,000 for a dream wedding, she offered to help. "Let's open a joint account," she said. "It'll help you stay disciplined. And hey, I can monitor it too. Make sure you're not sneaking lattes instead of saving for your flower arch." I laughed. It felt like sisterly love. So, we opened the account. She called it the Promise Jar. She even made a digital vision board for me. White orchids, sea glass blues, ivory dresses. She seemed genuinely excited. For 5 years, I saved. Through breakups, job switches, and even one canceled engagement, I never touched that money. Not once. Then came Trevor. We met at a photography workshop. He saw the world through a lens that matched mine, raw, romantic, rooted. We fell in love slowly, like ink spreading through water. When he proposed under a canopy of string lights in my tiny backyard, it felt like everything was finally coming together. We set a date. I started calling venues in Maui. It was time. One quiet Sunday evening, with my laptop open and a list of dream locations in front of me, I logged into the Promise Jar account. $46.72. I blinked. Refreshed the page. Still $46.72. My heart slammed against my ribs. I clicked the transaction history, pulse pounding. At first, the page loaded slowly. Then the truth poured out like ice water over my skin. A spa package in Palm Springs. A luxury hotel stay in Miami. $2,000 at a boutique store in New York. Car dealership. Jewelry store. Clubs. And not just one spree, months of it. Layered, reckless withdrawals. It wasn't fraud. The account hadn't been hacked. It was Haley. At first, I couldn't breathe. I stood up so fast my laptop tumbled off the couch. The silence in my apartment felt too loud. I called her. No answer. I texted. "The money's gone." "What the hell happened?" No reply. 30 minutes later, her response buzzed in. "Let's talk later. I'll explain. Please don't freak out." Freak out? That was all she had to say? I paced my tiny kitchen, rage boiling in my chest. How do you even begin to process that kind of betrayal? Not from a stranger. Not from a scammer. From your own blood. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't tell Trevor. I couldn't. I spent the next morning digging through every statement, screenshotting every expense. I created a spreadsheet. Each row hurt more than the last. She'd used my wedding savings like Monopoly money, dining in luxury while I was rationing groceries just to stay on track. And all the while she said nothing. I finally cracked at lunch the next day and drove to her apartment. I didn't knock, gently. I pounded like the walls had betrayed me too. When she opened the door in yoga pants and no shame on her face, I knew I wasn't getting an apology. But I still asked, "Why, Haley?" She blinked like I'd asked her to explain gravity. "I didn't think you'd actually use all of it. I thought you had more saved elsewhere. And I was going through some things." That was her explanation. I stood there, holding 5 years of hope crumbling in my chest, while she told me she was going through things. I left without another word. I walked down her hallway, past the front desk, past a mirror where I caught a glimpse of myself, eyes red, hands shaking, soul splintered. That night, I sat in my room, wrapped in the silence again. And that's when I remembered something. She thought I had only that one account, but I didn't. Buried beneath her betrayal was one final thread of hope, a second, secret savings account. Smaller, tucked away in a different bank. I opened it after an argument with Haley a year ago, just in case. It didn't have $30,000, but it had enough. She'd stolen my wedding, but not my will, not my fire, and definitely not the ending. Not yet. A part of me still hoped for a real apology. Maybe Haley was ashamed. Maybe she was struggling with something deeper. I clung to the idea that the girl who braided my hair before school and stayed up watching rom-coms with me couldn't possibly do this. Not really. But reality doesn't come wrapped in sentiment. 2 days after I confronted her, she invited me to meet her at our childhood coffee shop. It felt like a trap laced with nostalgia, the place where we once shared secrets over peppermint mochas. But I went, stupidly clinging to the hope that my sister would see the wreckage she caused and do the right thing. She was already seated when I walked in, hair styled, nails done, latte in hand. Her phone buzzed and she giggled before sliding it into her purse. No signs of shame. I sat down slowly, locking eyes with her. "Say it," I said. My voice barely held together. "Say you stole from me." She didn't even blink. "I didn't steal," she replied. "I borrowed." I stared at her, stunned. "Borrowed? You emptied an account that wasn't yours. You didn't ask. You didn't warn me." "That's not borrowing, Haley. That's theft." She waved her hand like I was being dramatic. "Look, you're smart, Jess. You're stable. You always have a plan. I figured you had something else saved too. I just needed a break, okay?" I leaned back, mouth dry. "You needed a break? So you took my dream vacation instead?" "It wasn't like that." Her tone hardened. "You don't get it. You have Trevor, this perfect love story, everything planned out. I'm 30, single, and drowning in pressure to keep up. You could have asked for help. Would you have given it to me?" "No," I said honestly. "Not from that account." She went quiet. Then she did the thing that finally killed the sister I thought I knew. She smiled like it was a misunderstanding. "I'll pay it back," she said. "Eventually. Just don't blow this up, okay? It's not worth ruining our family over." My hands were trembling under the table. "You already did that." She looked annoyed. "Jess, come on. It's just money."
No.
It wasn't.
It was my late nights and double shifts.
It was every birthday I skipped gifts for myself. It was every wedding daydream I scribbled into a journal. It was 5 years of discipline, sacrifice, and quiet hope. And she spent it on brunches and Botox. When I got home, I collapsed on my bed and cried until my ribs hurt. The betrayal sat inside me like a bitter stone. I knew I had to tell Trevor. But how do you tell your fiancé that your own sister gutted your wedding? I waited 3 days. When I finally told him, he didn't say anything for a full minute. Then he hugged me. "We'll figure it out," he said gently. "We'll make it work, even if we have to get married at a courthouse." His kindness only made it worse. This wasn't the wedding I wanted to have to salvage. The worst part? My parents took her side. When I broke the news to them, my mom sighed like I was telling her the weather forecast. My dad rubbed his temples and muttered, "Girls, can't you just let this go?" "Let it go? She's your daughter too," I reminded them. "She's going through a lot," Mom said, her voice clipped.
"She made a mistake.
You're always the mature one, Jess. Be the bigger person." I wanted to scream. Instead, I laughed, a dry, exhausted sound that surprised even me. Be the bigger person? I'd been the only person trying to hold this family together for years. And the moment I needed someone to stand up for me, they folded like paper. That night, I sat on my kitchen floor with a bottle of red wine, staring at the printed bank statements spread around me like evidence at a crime scene. And then I remembered it. Account 6270. The emergency backup. Opened under my name only. It had maybe $8,000 saved, just in case life ever went sideways. Well, life hadn't just gone sideways. It had driven off a cliff. That account became my lighthouse in a hurricane. I didn't tell anyone about it. Not Trevor, not my parents, and especially not Haley. I pretended the wedding was canceled. I told everyone we were taking time to rethink our priorities. But behind the scenes, I was doing something else. I was planning. Not just a new wedding. A reckoning. Haley thought she'd gotten away with it. She thought she could smile and shrug and guilt-trip her way out of accountability. She thought I was weak. She forgot one thing. I don't give up. I rebuild. And when I do, brick by brick, I make sure the foundation is stronger than ever before. What she didn't know was that I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. I let Haley think I had moved on. I watched her post Instagram stories from wine bars, yoga retreats, and rooftop brunches while I quietly rebuilt what was left of my wedding plans alone. The captions were insufferable. New month, new mindset. You can't break a woman who's already rebuilding herself. I wanted to scream. She hadn't rebuilt herself. She'd built her glow up on my back. But I stayed silent. That was the key. Let her think she won. I took the $8,000 I had left and downsized everything. I canceled the Hawaii dream and picked the Oregon coast instead. A raw, moody cliffside where the waves hit like drums and the fog wrapped around you like poetry. It wasn't glamorous, but it felt true. And it was all mine. I planned the wedding in secret. Trevor and I agreed. No big announcements, no family drama. Just 10 people we trusted with our hearts, standing with us in the wind, watching us say vows not built on lies. We married in October. The sky was overcast, the air was cold, but my heart felt light. I wore a dress I found at a vintage shop, stitched the hem myself, and walked barefoot across the mossy rocks to meet Trevor at the altar. When I said I do, it wasn't just to him, it was to me, to reclaiming joy, to choosing peace, to being done with anything that made me smaller. But I still had one gift left to give. And it had Haley's name written all over it. 2 weeks later, I mailed her an envelope. Inside, an invitation. Cream cardstock. Embossed lettering. Gold foil edges. It read, "You're cordially invited to the wedding of Haley Monroe and American Express. A celebration of impulsive choices and broken trust." At the bottom was a date and time. No venue. No RSVP required. Also enclosed, copies of her transaction history, legal documentation, and a formal notification that I was filing a civil suit for misappropriation of funds and breach of fiduciary responsibility. She had signed her name to the joint account. She had no written permission to access the money. And yes, my lawyer confirmed, I had a case. I pressed charges. Not for revenge. For respect. Because sometimes the only way to teach someone the weight of their actions is to make sure they feel it. The fallout was explosive. She called first. I let it go to voicemail. She left 6 messages in 2 days, each one more frantic than the last. Then came the texts. Are you serious? You're actually doing this to your own sister? You're such a drama queen, Jess. I thought you were better than this. You don't know what you're starting. Actually, I did. She tried guilt. She tried tears. Then she tried rage. I'll tell Mom and Dad everything, she threatened. You're making a mistake. You'll regret this. Funny, she never regretted what she did to me. Our parents were furious, but not at Haley. Not really. Mom called me crying. You're ruining your sister's life. Do you want her to go bankrupt? Mom, I said calmly. She already ruined mine. She just did it quietly. I'm just not being quiet anymore. Dad was more measured. This is harsh, Jess. Couldn't you handle it privately? She stole years of my savings. And you're worried about her reputation? They didn't get it. They never really had. I wasn't the one being cruel. I was being clear. When the lawsuit reached her, Haley tried to settle. She offered to pay back $5,000. I rejected it. My lawyer filed for $27,000 in damages, plus emotional distress and legal fees. Her accounts were frozen. She had to hire her own lawyer. Turns out that Range Rover lease and those designer bags couldn't cover her now. She ended up selling her condo to avoid going to court. Eventually, she repaid over half the amount in a settlement agreement. Part of the deal? A notarized confession of what she did, signed, stamped, and filed. I didn't need the whole $27,000 back. I just needed her to own it. I didn't invite her to my real wedding. She saw photos months later. Mutual friends tagged us in a few. There was one of me on the cliff, laughing into the wind, Trevor's arms around me. No makeup filters. No couture gown. Just love. Real love. She sent me one last message. You didn't have to go that far. But she was wrong. I did. Because sometimes family is just a word. And trust? That's earned, not assumed. She thought she was too close to be held accountable. She was wrong again. It's strange how silence feels after a storm. Not peaceful, but alert. Like your body still waits for thunder that's no longer coming. That's how I felt in the weeks after the settlement. No more phone calls from Haley. No more guilt-tripping texts. Just silence. The kind that feels like space. Like air. I thought closure would feel louder. But it didn't. It was quiet. It was healing. I kept the notarized confession in a fireproof box in my closet. Not because I needed to revisit the pain, but because I needed the reminder. You didn't imagine it. She really did that. And you survived anyway. 3 months passed. Then came my birthday. Trevor planned a surprise dinner with a few close friends at a tiny coastal restaurant. Candles, laughter, homemade wine, the scent of sea salt in the air. At the end of the night, we did a toast. Everyone raised their glasses to love, resilience, and new beginnings. Then Trevor handed me a small black box. Inside was a charm bracelet. Each charm had meaning, a tiny wave for the ocean wedding, a silver book for my writing, a miniature envelope, sealed. He leaned in and said, "That one's for the letter you never got from her." I swallowed the lump in my throat. Do I really need a reminder? No, he said. But you deserve acknowledgement, even if it has to come from us. I smiled. For once, the pain didn't surge forward. It just existed.
And passed.
I never told many people the full story. The public version was, there were some family complications, but we handled it. But in private, I promised myself I would never let silence protect someone else's wrongdoing again. One day, I got a message from an old friend of Haley's. She said, "I heard what happened. She did something similar to me once. I was too scared to speak up. Thank you for doing what I couldn't." That message? That was the real win. Not the money. Not even the apology I never received. But the proof that truth, when spoken out loud, gives others the permission to heal too. A few weeks later, I saw Haley again, unexpectedly. It was at a mutual friend's baby shower. I had no idea she'd be there. When I walked in, I felt that familiar squeeze in my chest. But I kept my chin up. She noticed me, then looked away. For once, she was the one who seemed small. At one point, we were both standing near the dessert table. She glanced over and said, "Hey." I nodded. "Hi." A pause. Then she said, "So, I guess we're just strangers now." I looked at her, steady.
No.
Strangers don't have the power to hurt me. You did. She flinched just a little. Then she shrugged. People make mistakes, Jess. And some people learn from them, I said. Others lose good people and still don't get it. I picked up a cupcake and walked away. No drama. No screaming. Just truth. I no longer keep photos of us in my living room. I no longer cling to the version of her I wanted to believe in. But I also don't hate her. Hate is heavy. And I have better things to carry. What I carry now is this: a marriage built on honesty. A sense of self I had to fight for. And a story, not just of betrayal, but of rising anyway. People sometimes ask if I'd ever let her back into my life. My answer? Forgiveness isn't the same as access. I've forgiven her for myself. But the door she slammed shut when she chose herself over my dreams? That door stayed closed. And I'm okay with that. Because sometimes family doesn't mean blood, it means boundaries. And strength isn't just moving on. It's knowing when not to go back. Not every betrayal ends in reconciliation. Some end in reclamation. And that, too, is a kind of love story. Thank you so much for listening to my story. Your support means everything. If this story touched you or made you think, please subscribe to our channel for more real, powerful stories.